First of all, please click the like button just below the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider subscribing. With a new video, you will be notified. A villain is just a victim whose story hasn't been told. I'm not a role model, I'm a role villain. Beware the power of the dark side. Live as a villain, die as a hero. People are not born heroes or villains. They're created by the people around them. I like being a villain. Villains are more exciting. One may smile and be a villain. They paint me as a villain. I just autograph the artwork. I became a villain for doing the right thing. Every villain is a hero in his own mind. I'm not a villain. I've never hurt anyone. I'm just a tawdry character who explodes now and again. True villains are extremely photogenic. Evil will always triumph because good is dumb. The world is a mess and I just need to rule it. The villain is the person who knows the most but cares the least. Villains are often attractive. I am a villain, but I'm not your villain. Every hero is the villain of his own story. A lot of people only see me as villains. Well, I think there are no villains in this world. There are just misunderstood heroes. What's the point of being a hero when everyone thinks you're a villain? The more successful the villain, the more successful the picture. You either die a hero or live long enough to become the villain. One murder makes a villain, millions, a hero. A man can smile and be a villain. All the true heroes of history will be forgotten, and all the villains will be remembered as heroes. Villains are meant to be hated. The best villains are the nicest guys in person. Nobody is a villain in their own story. We're all the heroes of our own stories. You want to believe in black and white, good and evil, heroes that are truly heroic, villains that are just plain bad. But I've learned in the past year that things are rarely so simple. The good guys can do some truly awful things, and the bad guys can sometimes surprise the heck out of you. The difference between a hero and a villain is that they just make different choices. I think all villains have something in common. They have something that they need or want very, very badly. The stakes are very high, and they are not bound by moral codes or being ethical, so they can do anything and will do anything to get what they want. Villain is such a harsh word. If life has taught me one thing, it's that there are no villains, only people doing their best. No one sees themselves as the villain in their story. Villains are a lot of fun. My villains have a lot of tongue-in-cheek. They are sometimes conscious of and a little bit gleeful of their villainy. She should have known that villains often come with pretty faces. The distance between insanity and genius is measured only by success. You know, everyone loves to be the villain. I always felt that heroes were essentially dull. Villains were more exotic and could do more interesting things. A villain must be a thing of power, handled with delicacy and grace. He must be wicked enough to excite our aversion, strong enough to arouse our fear, human enough to awaken some transient gleam of sympathy. We must triumph in his downfall, yet not barbarously nor with contempt, and the close of his career must be in harmony with all its previous development. If you look in real life, it is very hard to describe people as good people. Bad people, heroes, or villains. People aren't bad people. They all have their justifications. I think all of us have a hero and a villain in us. I also try very hard to create characters, both heroes and villains, with psychological depth. I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Every villain is a hero in his or her own mind. The villain of any story is often the most compelling character. I liked getting the Best Villain Award. I thought that was funny. I like not fair terms and a villain's mind. Why do villains have so much influence? Because the honest people are terribly dense. If great content is the hero, then banners are the villain. History is moving pretty quickly these days, and the heroes and villains keep on changing parts. I want to play a villain. I can't wait to play a villain. Villains are mostly just people villainized by circumstance. The difference between insanity and genius is measured only by success and failure. Your enemy is never a villain in his own eyes. I understand being the villain is what people like. People play to that. They want to know about the villain. I love playing villain. I like playing the villain. But after all, the villains are the salt in the soup of a story. So easily do weak men put in high positions turn villains. Villains fear me because I am unpredictable and broccoli. See what I mean? We're happier when the assholes are villains. I have always been fascinated by the concept of the villain and the hero being in one person. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair, well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain and hate the idle pleasures of these days. In the old days, villains had mustaches and kicked the dog. Audiences are smarter today. They don't want their villain to be thrown at them with green limelight on his face. They want an ordinary human being with failings. One murder makes a villain, millions often a hero. Know the feeling when you feeling like a villain, you be having good thoughts, but the evils be revealing. And the stresses of life can take you off the right path. Jealousy and envy tends to infiltrate your staff. We gotta hold it down so we can move on past all adversities, so we can get through fast. I don't believe in villains or heroes, only in right or wrong ways that individuals are taken, not by choice but by necessity or by certain still uncomprehended influences in themselves, their circumstances, and their antecedents. In order to inhabit a villain, you mustn't care what the audience think of you. That's not why you are there. You mustn't care for a second whether the audience likes you or dislikes you. Your villain has to be way beyond that. Being born with a pair of beady eyes was the best thing that ever happened to me. I suppose my understanding of villains is that they're just people who are infected by all of the darker instincts, that they haven't got the discipline to make the right choices. The villain is usually the most interesting part, but it has to be a smart thing. Just dumb, cliché villains with a Russian accent and big muscles and a mean face, I don't know. My Russian accent isn't that great, and the muscles aren't that big, and the mean face is not enough. You know what I mean? It gets very boring, tedious stuff. You have to love the guy that you play. Even if you play the villain, you've got to love him. Being a villain is great, even though I've only gotten to do it a few times. If we can forgive what's been done to us, if we can forgive what we've done to others, if we can leave all of our stories behind, our being villains or victims, only then can we maybe rescue the world. The villain's censure is extorted praise. Who is to say who is the villain and who is the hero? Probably the dictionary. It's not like I played a villain and everyone goes, "Oh, there's that guy again." I love the idea of a supervillain that doesn't wear a cape, that doesn't wear a super suit. It is success that colors all in life. Success makes fools admired, makes villains honest. Doubt, fear, and regret are the three villains of success. If you close the door on the first two, you will never have to worry about meeting the third. One of the greatest things about playing a villain is people wondering when he's going to make his comeback. Are the problems of the world caused by bad people who need to be crushed? Or do people do bad things when they are in a certain situation? If it is the latter, then we can go around crushing the villains for another 1,000 years and nothing will change. I did it 35 minutes ago. Most actors will tell you that villains are the most interesting to play. You can't think that you're playing a villain or you'll end up with a cartoon. You have to think about him as a person and a hero. Oh, villains, vipers, dogs, easily one to fawn on any man. That's not a villain. That's a man who's a victim of being in love with the wrong one. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. I'm not an actress, you know. I don't know what's going on. And I'm supposed to be the villain. But the worst enemy you can meet will always be yourself. You lie in wait for yourself in caverns and forests. Lonely one, you are going the way to yourself, and your way goes past yourself and past your 7 devils. You will be a heretic to yourself, and witch and soothsayer and fool and doubter and unholy one and villain. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you become new if you had not first become ashes? I want to be the villain. Villains have fun. Life is not simple, and people can't be boxed into being either heroes or villains.